Stories by Anna presents Simon Peter, You Are the Christ. Matthew 16:13 to 20. Mark 8:27 to 30. Luke 9:18 to 21. Imagine spending nearly 3 years walking beside someone every single day. You've watched him heal the blind. You've seen him calm raging storms with nothing more than his voice. You've witnessed demons flee at his command. You've watched thousands of hungry people fed with just a few loaves of bread and fish. But one day, that same teacher turns to you and asks a question so personal that no one else can answer it for you. Who do you say that I am? It wasn't just a question for Peter. It's a question every generation must answer. Today, we journey to a place called Caesarea Philippi, where Simon Peter made one of the greatest declarations of faith ever recorded. Welcome, beautiful soul, to Stories by Anna. A journey. North Jesus and his disciples had traveled throughout Galilee, preaching, healing, and teaching. Crowds followed him everywhere he went. Some came because they believed. Others came because they wanted miracles. Some simply came out of curiosity. But now Jesus led his disciples far to the north, nearly 25 miles from the Sea of Galilee, to a city unlike any they had visited before. This city was called Caesarea Philippi. It was named in honor of Caesar, the ruler of Rome, and Philip, the local governor who expanded the city. It was a place filled with Roman influence, Greek culture, and pagan worship. Towering cliffs surrounded the area. A large cave at the base of the mountain was believed by many to be the entrance to the underworld. Temples dedicated to false gods stood nearby, including one devoted to the Greek god Pan. People came there to worship idols, to honor emperors, to place their hope in gods made by human hands. Yet in this very place, surrounded by false religion and human pride, Jesus would reveal the greatest truth of all. What are people saying? As they walked together, Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" The disciples answered honestly. Some say, John the Baptist. Others believed Jesus was Elijah returned from heaven. Still others thought he was Jeremiah or one of the prophets. People recognized there was something extraordinary about Jesus, but they hadn't reached the truth. Many admired him. Many respected him. But admiration is not the same as faith. The personal question. Then Jesus looked directly at the 12. The conversation suddenly became personal. "But who do you say that I am?" The silence must have been overwhelming. This wasn't a question about public opinion. It wasn't a political poll. It wasn't asking what everyone else believed. Jesus wanted to know what was in the hearts of the men who had walked beside him. Each disciple had a choice. Would they believe what the crowds believed, or would they trust what God had revealed? Peter speaks. As so often happened, Peter spoke first. But this time his words were not impulsive. They were inspired. Peter declared with confidence, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." In just a few words, Peter made one of the greatest confessions in history. The Christ means the Messiah, the long-awaited Savior promised throughout the Old Testament. For centuries, Israel had waited. Prophets had spoken of him. Generations had hoped for him. Kings had longed to see his day. And now, Peter boldly declared, "The one we've been waiting for is standing right here." Jesus' remarkable response. Jesus smiled and said, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah." Notice something beautiful. Jesus called him by his old name before reminding him of the man he was becoming. Then Jesus continued, "For flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." Peter hadn't figured this out through intelligence alone. God himself had opened Peter's eyes. Faith is ultimately a gift of God's revelation. No amount of education can replace a heart awakened by God. The rock. Then Jesus spoke words that have been discussed for centuries. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. Peter's name means rock or stone. Jesus was affirming Peter's important role among the apostles. But even more importantly, the church would be built on the truth Peter had just confessed, that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. The church would not be built on wealth, not on political power, not on impressive buildings. It would stand upon the unshakable truth of who Jesus is. And for over 2,000 years, despite persecution, wars, and countless attempts to destroy it, Christ's church still stands. Jesus' promise has never failed. The keys of the kingdom. Jesus then said, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Keys represent authority and responsibility. Peter would soon become one of the first great leaders of the early church. On the day of Pentecost, he would preach with boldness, and thousands would come to faith in Christ. God was preparing Peter for a ministry far greater than he could yet imagine. The fisherman was becoming a shepherd of souls. A lesson in humility. At this point, Peter must have felt encouraged. Jesus had praised him. The other disciples had heard his confession. Everything seemed to be going well. But following Jesus isn't about collecting compliments. It's about continual growth. Very soon, Peter would discover that knowing who Jesus is also means accepting why he came. The road ahead would lead to Jerusalem, to suffering, to the cross. Peter wasn't ready for that lesson yet, but Jesus was patiently preparing him. What this means for us. Jesus still asks the same question today, not, what does your family believe? Not, what does your church believe? Not, what do your friends believe? But, who do you say that I am? That question changes everything. If Jesus is only a good teacher, we may admire him. If he is only a historical figure, we may study him. But if he truly is the Christ, the Son of the living God, then he deserves our complete trust, our wholehearted worship, and our daily obedience. Peter's confession wasn't merely a statement. It became the foundation of his entire life. Closing reflection. Peter was once an ordinary fisherman mending nets beside the Sea of Galilee. Now he stood before the Son of God, boldly declaring the greatest truth he would ever speak. He still had much to learn. He would stumble again. He would misunderstand Jesus. He would even deny him. Yet this moment reminds us that faith often grows one revelation at a time. God was patiently shaping Peter into the leader he was called to become. And perhaps he is doing the same with us. No matter where you are on your journey, Jesus still asks the same life-changing question. Who do you say that I am? May your answer, like Peter's, come not only from your lips, but from a heart transformed by God. Thank you for joining me on Stories by Anna. May the Lord strengthen your faith, deepen your understanding, and help you stand firmly on the unshakable truth that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Welcome to the Stories by Anna family.